Hello, Pewter people. Scott Reynolds here with another Pewter Pulse. The Bucs are reeling at the wide receiver position right now, heading into the season opener at Atlanta. Not only will Tampa Bay be without Chris Godwin Jr. for at least the first 4 games of the season, but now the Bucs are going to be without Jalen McMillan for possibly half the year due to a neck injury he suffered in Pittsburgh. Certainly not ideal, but the Bucs have enough depth to weather the storm at receiver. And that's the subject of today's Pewter Pulse video. I'll explain more in just a moment. First, a reminder, hit the thumbs up button on this video. Give it a like. Also, leave a comment. Love reading your comments. Doing those two things helps us with the YouTube algorithm, gets our videos out in front of more awesome Bucs fans like you. Make sure you head over to Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. We're over 20,000 thanks to you. And that's where you can find more of my Pewter Pulse videos, the Pewter Report podcast, and other great Bucs video content. Okay. The Bucs are already down last year's wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 for at least the first quarter of this season. But Tampa Bay's wide receiving core is not down and out for week 1. And here's why. Now, the loss of Jalen McMillan for weeks and possibly months is a damn shame because J-Mac played a big role in the team's success as a rookie last year and was having a great camp in preseason. Thankfully, his scary neck injury wasn't worse. It's a severe neck strain, and that's better than suffering a broken neck or spine, which would have been career-threatening. McMillan was going to be wide receiver 3 again this year at the start of the season without Godwin. Now, as I've been reporting for weeks, Godwin is not going to be ready for the start of the season as he continues to recover from his dislocated ankle, which required 2 surgeries. One when it happened, and then one later in the offseason. Optimistically, Godwin misses the first 4 games as he'll be on the PUP list to start the year. Realistically, Godwin misses half the season too. Time will tell how long Godwin's recovery will take, but he isn't running on grass yet, and football season starts in 3 weeks. So where does that leave the Bucs wide receiver core in week 1? Well, Tampa Bay still has Mike Evans, and that's a great place to start. Evans turns 32 on August 21st, but honestly looks like he's 22. Evans has had the best training camp of all of the offensive players and probably the best camp Evans has ever had in his career. Look for him to have a monster season statistically, especially without Godwin at the beginning of the year, as Baker Mayfield relied much more on Godwin than he did Evans at the start of last season. Now, Evans has got a ton of career success against the Falcons. And remember, he had 2 touchdowns in last year's game at Atlanta before missing the rematch a few weeks later in the creamsicle game due to a hamstring injury. The offensive player who has probably had the second best training camp behind Evans, well, that's been wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, the rookie. The team's first-round pick has done his best Chris Godwin impersonation you'll ever see. And I don't mean Godwin from when he was a rookie. I mean the pro version of Chris Godwin Jr. Egbuka is capable of putting up a 1,000-yard season in the slot during his rookie season. Seriously, he's that good. Fast, fluid, physical, great hands, great route running ability, high football IQ. Egbuka is the total package. He is a Godwin clone. The team's wisdom to draft Egbuka in the first round is magnified even more now with Jalen McMillan's injury. And no, Egbuka is not going to play in the preseason finale. Get that out of your head. He and Evans are going to be bubble wrapped prior to the season opener after that scary injury to McMillan. So with McMillan out, Sterling Shepard will be wide receiver 3 versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, you remember, Shepard scored a touchdown last year at Atlanta, and the veteran has had a great camp in preseason. His rapport with Baker Mayfield is as strong as ever, and of course, the two go back to their playing days together at Oklahoma. Now, whether Sterling Shepard starts the season on the 53-man active roster or the practice squad is irrelevant because he'll be a practice squad elevation and active for week 1 if he's not on the 53. The Bucs were wise to draft Emeka Egbuka in the first round. There's no doubt about that. But having the foresight to draft wide receiver Tez Johnson in the 7th round, now looks like a stroke of genius by Jason Light, or perhaps good fortune given the injuries at wide receiver. I had Johnson making the 53 as wide receiver 5 from the beginning, but now he's probably wide receiver 4 in opening day. Johnson averaged 1,000 yards receiving at Oregon in his 2 years with the Ducks, and he's incredibly slippery and elusive with the ball in his hands. If the Bucs didn't draft Johnson in the 7th round, they would be a lot less talented and much thinner at wide receiver right now as a result. Now, there's a battle royale going on for wide receiver 5, but Ryan Miller appears to be leading the pack. Miller was on the practice squad last year, but elevated for a few games, wound up scoring a couple touchdowns while filling in for Evans and Godwin during that midseason stretch. He's made progress as a route runner this summer and has shown increased concentration when catching the ball. Miller is a bigger-bodied receiver who can block in the running game on the perimeter, and he can also break tackles on wide receiver screens, where he's proven to be very effective this preseason. If the Bucs keep 6 wide receivers on the 53, and they just might initially, several other players are in the mix for that final spot, including promising rookie wide receiver Garrett Green, who seems destined for the practice squad at least, newcomer Jacob Harris, who's gotten quite a few targets, Cam Johnson, and veteran Trey Palmer, who's kind of the forgotten man. All these injuries have given Palmer, who was likely going to be the odd man out at wide receiver, a ray of hope of making the team now. Dennis Houston and Jaden Smith are also in the mix, but Houston needs to get healthy ASAP, and Smith needs to have a huge game versus Buffalo in the preseason finale. Johnson and Palmer missed the first 2 preseason games, and they've got some catching up to do, but Saturday night will be a big night in determining who makes the 53 as that final wide receiver, who makes the practice squad, and who will have to look for work elsewhere. Now, I know some of you Bucs fans are absolutely losing your mind right now over these injuries. But at some point in time, Tristan Wirfs, Chris Godwin Jr., and Jalen McMillan, they will return to action later this year, hopefully in time for a playoff push at midseason, or maybe sooner for some of them. In years past, the Bucs, well, they just haven't been as deep as they are now. The cavalry wasn't coming to save the day. But thanks to some great drafting and some quality free agents, Jason Light and his staff have flooded the wide receiver position, and the team is much better positioned to deal with the rash of injuries than it was a year ago. Keep in mind that the Bucs nearly beat the Falcons without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in the creamsicle game last year. Josh Grizzard was on hand for that game, of course, to see how Liam Cohen used tight end Cade Otton that day and the pony package with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White to help Tampa Bay put up 24 points without the dynamic duo versus the Falcons. It was the defense that day that didn't hold up its end of the bargain. But you know what? Tampa Bay's defense is playing much better heading into this season, and the Bucs will have Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson, Cade Otton, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, and Sean Tucker at Baker Mayfield's disposal in week 1. I still very much like the Bucs' chances of beating the Falcons in the season opener, even without Chris Godwin Jr. and Jalen McMillan. Folks, we are beating expectations thanks to you guys. We're over 20,000 subscribers on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Make sure you visit for more Bucs video content. Hit subscribe and also click on the notifications. They'll let you know when I come out with a new Pewter Pulse video or when we go live with the Pewter Report podcast. Also, visit us on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report, and visit pewterreport.com for breaking news, injury reports, roster additions, inside scoop, game coverage, and more. And I'll be back soon with the new Pewter Pulse.